All right, excellent. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Fight. I have a very special guest with me here today, Andy Elkerton. I am going to separate and introduce Andy, but first, I just want to kind of set the stage for this special guest we have. Now, as I previewed on earlier uh, video, my book, How Eddie Put a Smile on the Moon, and it is illustrated by Andy Elkerton, who is a multiple #1 New York Times best-selling illustrator of the How to Catch series, like How to Catch a Leprechaun, How to Catch a Unicorn. And Andy, I don't want to. I'm going to tell how I got my story and everything that got that led me up to you. But first, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and just say hi, just so you're not staring into space, being like, "When's he going to get to me?"
Do you know, I normally stare into space anyway, Danny. I wouldn't worry about it.
Excellent.
My name is Andy Elkerton. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm in the UK. Originally, I'm from a town near Liverpool, which is, probably most people have heard of Liverpool. A town called Birkenhead in the north of England. I now live in the Scottish Highlands on the west coast of Scotland. I used to do I used to work in the video game industry from the mid 80s until about 2002. And since then, I've been lucky enough to have the best job, I think, the best job in the world, which is drawing pictures for children. I've never had a proper job. I'm 57 and it's great.
I love it. I love it.
That's
Well,
me.
definitely. Excellent. Well, I definitely want to actually go into deeper detail about the gaming industry as well and talk about that one, how you
Okay,
first got into that. But let me
right.
kind of lead up to how I got in touch with you. So every night before bed, I always tell my son a story. I just off the top of the dome, I'm just creative. I do that. So
Yeah.
I remember I told him a story. Just it was about how a little boy, his daddy told him a joke about the moon, and then he realizes that his daddy told him that it has a smile, and he looks up and there's no smile, so he comes up with a creative way to put a smile on the moon. I'm not going to give away the book because I want you to get it and read how fabulous it is. But
No
uh,
spoilers, no
yeah, no
spoilers,
no spoilers.
no
But
spoilers.
I remember when I was reading it to Eddie. When I wasn't reading, when I was telling it to Eddie, he got up from his toddler bed. This was around 3 years ago, and he's like, "Wow, Daddy, I want to read that and I want to watch that." And I was like, that was actually a really good story. So I would read Eddie books every night. And the books I would read him are how to catch books because I love them. And these are the books that Andy illustrated. And the
I
one,
know them quite well. I know
yes,
those
you
books quite
do.
well.
Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
And the one actually that first introduced me was How to Catch a Yeti. And
Okay,
are
right.
you familiar with that one?
Well, I drew it, so yes, I
That's
hope
right.
so.
I figured. That's right.
In
Exactly.
fact, it's
Yes.
almost a Yeti. Danny knows about this. I'm quite obsessed by Bigfoot, which I know sounds weird, but there you go. There's my
There we
Bigfoot.
go. Look at
But
that.
yes,
Oh,
but yes,
no,
how
I
to
love
catch a
that stuff
Yeti. I
too.
did. I illustrate that. Yeah.
That's great. So I remember reading him all the books, and I loved Andy's illustrations. Literally, I mean, they jump off the page, super exciting. And it just like spoke to me because I have a very busy mind. Eddie's a very busy kid. He's always moving. And like when you looked at Andy's pictures, you could see movement, even though it was still, but you just knew there was action happening. So I'm a big fan of Dale Carnegie. One of the books my mom gave me when I was, I believe, in fifth grade was called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in there, Dale Carnegie talks about, when you really admire someone, write them a letter and, uh, don't blow smoke at them, but talk about real, honest, the things that you really admire about that person and, talk about their work. And that was, I did with Andy. I loved his work and I reached out to Andy. I think, was it LinkedIn, was it at first, or I forgot,
I
Facebook.
don't
I
know.
forgot.
Maybe
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, something
yeah, it
like
was one
that.
of those. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So, in my career, I'm a, sales, I'm a headhunter, so I'm able to get to people. That's what I do. But Andy, I sent him a letter just telling him how much I loved your illustrations, and I shared my story with you, right? In that first email, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did.
And you
Yeah.
were kind enough to reply back to me, and that's where things kicked off. And me and you have been grown pretty close over these last, was it been like
Yeah.
4
Yeah. Yeah.
or 3 years? It's
Something
wild.
like that. It's
Yeah.
been, yeah, it's taken quite a long time. I think, too many commitments at first meant
Y-
that I couldn't
Yeah,
when you
no.
originally contacted me.
Well, exactly. Were you,
Was it
did I
four
know
years
you
ago?
before my first cancer battle? My second, I mean, before my second cancer battle?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
did. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
That's been a while, man. So you were there with me
It
when I had
has.
all the craziness going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But of course, he's across the pond, everyone. So it's not like we ever got to meet each other in person, but someday.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm waiting for the invite. I'm
Yeah,
waiting for the invite.
exactly. Well, everyone go purchase sorry, How Eddie Put a Smile on the Moon so we can get Andy to the States and we could do this interview in person. So
Yes.
that's a little bit about, kind of how I got in touch with Andy and our working relationship and how Eddie Put a Smile on the Moon came to be. And of course, I will share links on where you can purchase the books and of course check out Andy's other works. But first, I want to talk to you, Andy. I want you to tell me, like growing up, how did you get into this creative area? Because I know me, I was always daydreaming, and that kind of led me into the creative field. But tell me about your journey, like what got you here, and maybe
Um,
all the way up to the How to Catch series.
well, I think that I was always that kid in school who could draw,
Yeah,
had an
not
ability
me.
to draw. Um, I think that my dad used to be an artist years ago, and I've looked into ancestry as well, and I've seen that my ancestors, who were mostly all of them from Ireland, were things like ship's carvers. They made figureheads on ships.
That's cool.
So there's always been a kind of a creative line going through things. At school, um, I was a kind of above average, kind of topper,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of above average student, but I kind of flunked all my exams at school, and I didn't would have been the equivalent. I didn't graduate. I left school when I was almost 17 because
Wow.
I flunked all my
Yeah.
exams. And I was given the option if I wanted to stay on and graduate, I had to stay 3 years rather than two.
Oh
I
wow.
didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's not a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
No.
but luckily, I got into art college. So I spent 3 years in art college, and then I came out and I just sat around doing nothing for a year. And then when I went back to the art college, basically to see one of the tutors and pick up all the certificates and diplomas that I got. When I got back home, that same art tutor at the art college gave me a phone call and said that someone who was a computer game writer, a programmer, was looking for an artist. Now, I told this art tutor that I was interested in computers,
Yeah.
and so she gave me this programmer's number. And that was back in, let me do some quick
Quick math.
mathematics now. It would have been about 1985, something like that. In 1985, computers were really basic.
Oh yeah, I
I mean,
remember
I've written
Commodore
on bios
64.
that, yeah, well, do you know what?
Yeah.
That was the first system.
Yeah.
That was the first computer
Yeah.
that I did a game for, the Commodore
Really?
64,
That's funny.
called, I can't remember, what was the name of the game? It's so long ago. I'm so old now, and my memory's gone so much. It was, what was it called? I can't remember. Panic Station. That's
Panic
what it was called.
Station.
Panic Station.
Wow.
The guy had done this game called Space Pause that
Yeah.
had sold quite well on the Commodore. So I did this game for him called Panic Station. And then with the experience I had with, I think there was 16 colors
Yeah.
and very
Wow.
rectangular
Yeah.
pixels back then. I then got a job in a computer games company in the northwest of England. Around that time in Liverpool and that area, there was a
Wow.
real kind of movement in the
Yeah.
computer game industry. In as much as there were a lot of companies that were
Yeah.
there, Signosis, there was a company called Ultimate,
Okay.
and these are companies that did so well that all the staff drove Porsches.
Wow.
When I got into the industry,
Yeah.
it was the Porsche driving had just,
Yeah. The
it was
Porsches are
past that.
gone.
Yeah,
That
they were gone. Yeah,
that is
yeah, they were
funny.
well and truly gone.
You know what's
But
hilarious, real quick? Uh,
yeah,
my grandfather, he had a Commodore 64. That's the only reason I know about it because you were doing this in 1985, right? I was born in 81, but I remember my grandfather's Commodore 64. So I mean, that's crazy how everything aligns like that. Your first
Yeah,
on that. And I didn't mean to
yeah, that
cut
was the
you off.
first
Go
thing he
ahead. I just
did.
wanted to say that because that's hilarious. Yeah.
Well, then what happened is after I finished this game for this programmer, I saw an advert in a local newspaper, and it was a computer game, a local computer game looking computer games company looking for an artist. So I applied, and I went for an interview the next day, and then I started on the following Monday,
Wow.
and
Good
I
interviewer then.
remained in the computer game company, not with that one. I joined other companies after that one.
Yeah.
I still think though that first company, which was called Maelstrom Games,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it, it
like
was run by
Norway.
a kind of pardon?
Like no, it's funny, Maelstrom. So my dad's ride that
Yeah.
he did in Epcot Center was called Maelstrom. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
the
your
Norway.
dad was another creative one, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
well, so that's the thing I was gonna. Yeah, yeah. So my family. So my dad was a brilliant scientist, but so my his mother was a songwriter for Broadway stars in like the 1930s, and
Nice.
my dad was a brilliant scientist, but he loved performing. So because of his mother, and he actually won an Academy Award in 1972 for a digital light valve. So, but he was always very creative and things like that. So yeah, so that's kind of where we align like that. I mean, he did
But
do.
he was wasn't he at Disney though? Didn't he
He
work at
was. So
Disney?
he was. He
The
was. When I was.
Imagineers.
Yes, when I was born, my dad was vice president of Disney Imagineering. So
Yeah.
it was. I mean, as a kid, it was awesome because I would go meet him for lunch with my mom in Disneyland. And I remember when he was doing the Maelstrom ride, in Norway Pavilion in
Yeah,
Epcot,
yeah.
hearing a great story about that. And yeah, I mean, if I'll tell you the story real quick if you want to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Okay, real quick. So my dad, they had the Crown Prince of Norway. He was about to come to the Norway ride in the Norway Pavilion. And my dad helped develop, like the track and everything. And the only problem was is the boat. They ordered these special boats from Norway. But
Yeah,
every time it would go backwards down the track, like on a drop, it would flip over. And my dad called the people and the Norway company and said, "Hey, we got an issue. The Crown Prince of Norway is coming next week and your boats are flipping over." And they said, "Well, hey, we've been building boats for the high seas for thousands of years. We never designed them
yeah.
to go backwards on a track down a hill."
Right.
So my dad had to hurry up and figure something out. So he said, "Get me the ships from the boats from Pirates of the Caribbean, cut
Uh-huh.
off the top of the that little curve on the Norway boats
The
and put
dragon's
them on
head kind of thing for
exactly yeah
yeah, yeah,
and put
yeah.
them on the Pirates of the Caribbean boat and they did that when the everything worked perfectly. The Crown Prince of Norway came and it was a fabulous thing. They even I think they even write about that in a couple Disney books as well. That my dad's
Right.
thinking on that was pretty impressive. So yes, that's a
Didn't that did they make that into the Frozen ride?
they did yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
That
heartbreaking yeah, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've been to Disney World.
Yeah.
Is this Disneyland or Disney World you're
That's
talking about?
Disney World. That's Magic
Yeah,
Kingdom
it's
and Disney
Florida.
World. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been on that. I've been on that. That was good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's great that your father was a Disney Imagineer.
Oh yeah.
My father worked in a soap factory,
Oh really?
so it's not so creative, even though he used to be an artist.
Yeah.
Hi, Dad, if you're
Uh,
watching this.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was asking you about. Yeah, I mean, I want to pick up with Maelstrom, but tell me a little about your parents, and we'll circle back. And everyone, me and Andy, we go on tangents all the time, so
Oh, yeah.
it's
You
just more
don't know.
entertainment.
This is yeah. We'll start a Zoom meeting to
Yeah,
discuss the book,
yeah.
and then we will go off.
Oh, completely off. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was he started off as a kind of an illustrator, I believe, in things like catalogs and magazines when this is basically before people used to put photographs in there. You know, they draw the
Yeah,
pen and ink.
yeah, yeah.
I believe that's right. Anyway, he then worked for Unilever,
Okay.
which is a big kind of, it's a massive multinational now. Used to make soaps and detergents, and they make a huge amount of things now. But Unilever um, was created by a guy called Lord Leverhulme.
Okay.
And he made a model village. And when I say a model village, I don't mean like a tiny village.
Yeah, yeah.
He made a village for the staff who worked in his factory. And
Wow.
this village looks amazing. It's such a beautiful village. Thatch roofs, lovely old looking buildings, all made for his staff. Excuse me. It's called Port Sunlight.
Wow.
If you Google Port Sunlight,
I'll have to
anyone
check
out
that
there, you'll
out.
see the beautiful buildings in this place. Anyway, my dad
Port
used to
Sunlight,
work for this
everyone.
company at Unilever. Then he left that and then he opened his own business, which was basically a graphic design company.
Wow.
And then he had an accident. Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a massive biography. Please
No, no,
feel
no, go
free to
ahead.
edit this, Danny.
Yeah.
Then what happened is he had an accident, and that accident basically disabled him in as much as he couldn't walk properly. He had to use, crutches and things to walk.
Yeah.
And then he did another career dogleg, and he became an auditor, NRAC auditor, which is the National Register of Access Consultants.
Okay.
And what he does is he makes sure the companies and sports stadiums, museums, restaurants, everything cater for disabled people, like access, so that they can go in. And so like people
Yeah.
who are visually impaired
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
read things. People who have got physical disabilities are able to get through spaces
Yeah.
easily. So that's what he's done.
Oh, excellent.
My mum, she worked in a pharmacy for must have been about 40 plus years in
Wow.
the same village where I grew up
Mm.
in the northwest of England. And my parents divorced when I was about 12 or 13. And then my mum sadly passed away about 16 years ago of cancer that was undiagnosed.
Yeah.
So that's what my parents did.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about that. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing, we kind of we had the connection as well because your mom passed from cancer, so did mine. So that was something that really,
yeah. And my stepmother as well went through a lot with it as well and managed to beat it, thankfully. So
yeah.
yeah, it's not endemic, but there's a lot of it.
Yeah,
Obviously a lot
no,
of
the
people
that's the
suffer
thing,
from it.
something I talk about, it's touched everyone's lives,
It does. It certainly
it,
does.
it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
does. So that's really interesting about your parents. That's cool to hear. I love knowing the backstory. Now let's
Uh-huh.
get back to Maelstrom. I want to hear more
Maelstrom,
about that.
right. I've got a terrible habit, Danny knows this, of
Yeah.
talking forever.
No,
And
no, it's
Danny's
all right.
really gracious. He'll just sit there and listen. But yeah. Maelstrom Games, the guy, as I was saying, the guy who owned it, one of the owners, his name was Mike Singleton,
Okay.
and he was kind of a hippie computer game guru, and he wrote these games. Um, there was one called Lords of Midnight, and
Right.
then there were ones that came after that, Doom Dark's Revenge. Um, what other games did he write? He wrote quite major games in the early era of home computing. I worked at Maelstrom for, I think it was about 5 or 6 years. And then that company was taken over by Philips,
Okay.
Philips Media.
Okay.
They were trying to get into the home
Yeah.
computer market. They brought out this system called the 3DO. Uh, it didn't take off.
Yeah.
And then Philips were taken over by Infogram, the French company.
Yeah. Yeah.
We moved location again. By this time, it's the late 90s.
Yeah.
We
Now,
moved location again.
was this Philips Electronics?
Yeah, yeah, Philips, yeah,
My
Philips.
dad worked for Philips Electronics. That was
Right. Oh, did
that
he?
was
Right.
yeah, that was later on in his career. We were
Oh,
actually
right.
supposed to move to Salt Lake City, Utah, with
Ah,
Philips, but we ultimately didn't. But yeah, no, he worked for Philips. Yeah, which is funny.
small world. I
Yeah,
wonder if he
small,
had something to do with the 3DO.
yeah, but possibly. That's hilarious. That's wild.
Yeah,
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
it's
it's
okay.
it's funny. We've been talking for so like years now, and I've never knew that.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So keep going.
Um, so yeah, so then it was taken over by Infogram, big French company. Um, do you know the group of people that I worked with were great. It's a really tightly knit group of
Yeah.
people. I mean, now game studios are huge, hundreds and hundreds of people. Around this time, we must have been about 20.
Okay.
Before that, when we were doing games for the Commodore 64 and the ZX Spectrum
Yeah.
and the PC, back in the day, there was about 8 or 9 of us. But it was a really tight-knit group of people. But because there were so few of us,
Mhm.
it meant that we weren't putting the games out as quickly as a larger team would.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the Infogram team, uh, we kind of all lost our jobs.
Wow.
Not because we weren't doing the work properly, just that they didn't know what to do with us, basically.
No, yeah.
They asked me if I would stay on and work for them. This is while they um, got rid of some of my colleagues and gave them the sack, and I refused. And I said,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to,
That's good.
thanks.
You're like,
Because I
nope.
don't think, I mean, this sounds very worthy of me, but it
Yeah.
isn't. But I said, you've treated my colleagues so badly, I don't want to work for you.
Yeah.
And then I went on a trip around Ireland and I came back and Instagram called me up again and said, please come and work for us. And they gave me an offer that I couldn't refuse. So
Yeah.
basically, I went back on my word and started working for them.
Nice.
Um, then what happened is I got a job for another company. I relocated to the northeast of England to a place called Newcastle.
Okay. I know
And
Newcastle.
I worked for that company for, I think it was about 2 or 3 years. Whilst I was there, I met my wife.
Excellent.
Then the company went into liquidation.
Ooh.
And then I thought, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What on earth can I do? Because ironically, around that time, I was about 33. And I thought at 33, I was an old man. I
Yeah. Yeah.
was far
We
too
all do.
far too old to be in the video game industry, which is obviously stupid.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, what shall I do? And then I thought, oh, I know.
Yeah.
Because I specialized in illustration in art college back in the mid 80s,
Mhm.
I'll see if I can become an illustrator.
Yeah.
So I got myself an agent who was
Okay.
in London. And
Now, how'd you do
for the
that?
first,
How'd you get an
well,
agent? I know it's
well,
tough.
basically, I went on the internet and I looked to see if there were any illustrator agencies in the UK and who looked like good agencies, good
Yeah.
agents. Then what I did is I burnt a CD
Okay.
full of
I
artwork
remember
and
that.
then I mailed it down to her. And then her name is Sylvie Poggio, her name is. And then Sylvie phoned me to say that she liked my artwork. But as you can tell by her name, Sylvie Poggio, she's French.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I hope she forgives me for saying this, a very thick French accent.
Yeah.
I could not understand a word on that phone call. Didn't know what
That's
she was
funny.
saying.
It's like,
So
yeah.
I just
Oh,
was really positive.
yeah.
And then
That's the way to
I
do
got
it.
off the phone and I said to Tori, my wife, I said, I think I've just got myself an agent, but I don't know what she said. And then I had to dial a number so that you can see what the telephone number of the person who phoned you was. I had to check on the number of the person that phoned me,
That's
and then kind of I googled it,
yeah.
or it wasn't Google. What was it back
Was it
then?
Ask
Ask
Jeeves?
Jeeves or someone like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, something like that. I did that to see who it was that
Yeah.
phoned me, and I thought, oh, it's that agent that I
That's
messaged.
so you just had this
So
whole
anyway,
conversation with this lady and be like, yeah, yeah, but you didn't realize who it was?
well, I knew.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I could make out words.
Okay.
I mean, as
Okay.
the years went by, I understood Sylvie perfectly
Well, that's what
eventually,
happens. Yeah.
but I
You
could make
assume.
out words.
Yeah.
And I said to Tori, I think I've got an agent. And then, but I found it really quite difficult to
Mm,
break into the world of children's book illustration.
yeah.
And in my first year of being a professional illustrator, I must have made about $70.
Wow.
70 $70. That's how much I made in
Oh
my
man.
first year.
Rolling dough.
Um, yeah, not much. And then what happened is in 2015, I thought I need to. I mean, I started earning more than that, you
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
obviously. But
You
in
had to eat.
2015, yeah, yeah, I had to. Um, in 2015, I decided that I need to cast my, cast my net further
Yeah.
when it comes to clients. So I tried to get myself a US agent,
Okay, smart.
and I was taken on by a company called Shannon Associates,
Okay.
which are a huge American
Yeah.
agency. And ever since then, I've been kicking myself because I was thinking, why didn't I get an American agent
Yeah. Sooner.
back at the very beginning? Because
Yeah.
they are amazing, and my it completely changed my job, completely
Yeah.
changed what I do.
That's
And
incredible.
I think the very first, they may have been actually the How to Catch
Yeah.
books,
Wow.
which started with How to Catch a Leprechaun, was I think was the very first job that I did for
Wow.
America.
And that was the one
And
that
since,
hit number one like big time because that's when I first got turned on to you. It was How to Catch a Leprechaun because I read
yeah,
How to Catch a Yeti, and then I went and just looked you up, and all of a sudden I saw How to Catch a Leprechaun. That was the next one I ordered. Yeah.
yeah, there's I think there's between 25 and 30 of them now. They
Mm.
used to be written by a
Adam
guy
Wallace,
called
right?
Adam Wallace.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
in
Wow.
Australia,
Yeah.
and then they changed authors. But yeah, they've done really well. They've sold
Yeah.
millions and millions.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's one called How to Catch a Lovosaurus, which I
Oh,
think is number 3 in the New York Times best-selling list
I love it. Well,
as we speak. I think
that is
so.
awesome. It's funny because when we first were started talking, I remember I was watching, I forget what award ceremony was, but Seth Meyers was hosting it,
Yeah,
and he was going through the number one, Adam Wallace and Andy Elkerton, number two, and just
yeah, yeah,
listing all
yeah.
that, and it was
And he was
all
number
you and
three. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It was great. Yeah.
yeah. I messaged him and apologized,
Yeah.
but I don't know whether he saw it. But I
That's
thought,
funny.
you know, yeah.
That's
So I've
funny.
been really lucky, and I've worked for. If you go into the supermarket, I mean, he's not known over here.
Yeah.
Um, but Bongo, the Danone
Yeah.
Danimals
Well, no,
monkey mascot kind of thing.
yeah, we have the Danimals here in all of our grocery stores. Even in Disneyland, they have them in their little kids' meals when you go there, and you'll see Bongo, your artwork right on the
Well, yeah, I think that it's the smoothies
yeah, the
that
smoothie.
I specifically do.
Yeah,
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 the
the
smoothie
little
one that I do.
yeah,
If there's any of the cartons that have got a picture of like a tree house on it,
yeah,
or Bongo in a stripy
yeah,
t-shirt or doing that,
yeah,
yeah, or also on the packaging as well, on the bottles,
yeah,
artwork on the bottles, I do that as well. But I've done lots of uh, design work for advertising companies and board games for Hasbro, board games for other companies as well. So I do
yeah.
jack of
What
all trades, master of
can you tell
none
us
kind
what
of
board
thing.
games? I mean, I know the board games, but
Cluedo,
yeah,
Cluedo Junior or Clue Junior.
yeah,
Um, there's a few. One of the what? See, this is another thing that we don't have over here so much. What it can is it? No, Candy Crush is the phone game, isn't it?
no,
What's the?
Candyland.
Is that it? Candyland.
Candyland's a board game out here. Yeah, I played that growing up. Yep.
Do you know what? Excuse me while I just go online
Don't
and
worry.
check.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may see the light. When I draw things, I've got this massive. It's called a Wacom tablet. If you can
Yeah.
see my face suddenly brighten up, it's
Yes.
because I've got. It's the alternative.
Exactly.
Of course, it's Candyland. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've illustrated one of those. A game for one of those games that I've
Yeah.
done for Hasbro.
It's funny with that
Yeah, as I
light.
was saying,
That
say
light makes
again.
me think of Pulp Fiction when he opens up the the
The
suitcase.
briefcase.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
briefcase. Yeah.
It's a big,
Mm.
it's the equivalent of a big iPad with a
Okay.
pressure sensitive pen.
Mm.
And gone are the days I'll get rid of that so that I
Mm.
don't look so, do I look dark and gloomy
There
again
we
and
go. There we
mysterious? There you
go.
go.
Very
Um,
emo.
I used to do, I used to do all my artwork properly, with paints and pencils and
Yeah,
things. But now everything I do
yeah,
digitally.
that's great.
So gone are the days where I have to burn a CD and
Yeah.
then trust the post office
Oh
to
yeah.
send my CD down to London or over to the States. That would be terrible.
Yeah. That is great.
So yeah, so I've done lots of things. I've been extraordinarily lucky.
Now let me
Um,
ask you this. Well, if I want you to kind of for any illustrators out there, I want you to kind of give them best advice tips, but I want to find out if you can tell me where did you get your style from? Because your style is super vibrant, a lot of colors, which I love. And again, I mean, you can just see from the cover of this, it's action, it's movement, and I love it on the page. Where did you get that from? Because I know you're huge into comics, you're very
yeah,
creative. You could just see your background's awesome. Uh,
thank you very
and
much. Once
yeah,
again, I'm 57,
that's
and they're
right.
all my toys. Yeah,
Hey, young at heart. Yeah, what was it?
yeah,
Jimmy
something like that.
Durante?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Do you know what? I'm lucky to have quite a few kinds of styles.
Yeah,
But I know what you mean. I tend to do quite colourful, bright
yeah,
artwork.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, although I can alter my style depending on what a client wants.
yeah, yeah,
But generally, they come to me because they like the vivid colours.
yeah,
Um, do you know what? I don't know where
yeah,
it comes from. I think you can ask any artist,
yeah.
where do you get your style from? And they'll probably give you an equally kind of like
It's kind of like a voice
I
for a
don't know.
writer. Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
voice,
yeah, yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
that.
It's just something that you have.
Yeah.
That it's just the way that I draw, I
So now
suppose.
in school, because I remember I had friends, a really good one I
Yeah.
remember, his name was Joff, and he was always an amazing artist. He would doodle and you'd like, whoa, were you like that kind of person that your friends would walk by you and see your little artwork or your sketches and be like, hey,
I'd
that's really good.
I'd be the kid who would draw caricatures of teachers in class,
I
or
get
I'd
it.
be the kid that would draw. I mean, I don't do it anymore,
Yeah, of
thankfully.
course.
But
Good.
I would, if I'd be drawing something, if I was drawing a bear, for example,
Yeah.
I'd be doing this. I'd be drawing it on the paper and going.
Yeah.
If I was drawing a chicken, which I've been doing recently, I've been drawing chickens for a project.
Okay.
I would have been going.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, so I don't know how my classmates really used to view me, but yeah, I was the kid that would do caricatures and cartoons and pictures. I remember being asked to illustrate. There was going to be a kind of a teacher stroke pupil rugby match,
Okay.
and I was asked to see if I could do some caricatures of
Yeah.
the teachers that were going to be,
Yeah.
and then put them onto a kind of a booklet that
Yeah.
was going to be printed for this rugby match. And the thing is, though, the teachers asked if they could look at the caricatures first before
Wow.
we printed it. Four of them refused to allow me to put their
That's
caricatures on
hilarious.
it because it must have damaged their ego. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was the kind of thing that I did at school.
That is so funny. So I'm a terrible artist, but I would draw pictures of all my teachers as well, characters.
Right,
But mine, like I would
right.
do it I did in high school, and I did in college, but they were not flattering at all. They were,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They
If you
were,
do it flattering, you kind of I think you're missing the point of a
yeah,
caricature if it's completely flattering. Then of
exactly.
course it depends. If I
Yeah.
was doing a caricature of my wife, it would be very, very flattering.
Oh, of course.
But
Absolutely. Yeah.
teachers, whatever,
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
I remember this was years ago. When we first moved to Vegas, we went to the Luxor, and there was this character guy who drew a character of me and my little sister, and I
Right.
wanted to punch the guy in the face after. He did a
Really?
character of me, which was so hideous. I was like, "How dare you!" I was miserable for the rest of the day.
Do you know there are videos on YouTube of cartoonists doing doing caricatures of people. I think there's a guy in Hawaii that does it, I think.
Yeah,
He does caricatures of people that are exactly the kind of thing that you just complained
I
about.
think I
And
know what you're
people love
talking
it.
about. Yeah.
People love it though, because it makes them look so,
Well,
so out of the
exactly. Yeah,
box kind
yeah.
of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I think it was like, what was I? We were on vacation. I think it was like 17 at the time, really cocky, arrogant. I'm like, how dare this guy? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that's funny. Now, so if you can for anyone out there, like young illustrators, because
Uh-huh.
like you have your work is worldwide, it's pretty amazing. What advice can you give them to kind of break into the industry, like things like that, like, so they don't, lose their confidence, or just ways to, best practices just to be
Okay.
successful
Well,
or
I'll
get their work
also
seen?
add advice that I'm going to give to some writers as well.
Excellent.
Although I didn't follow my own advice for you, but I'll explain that in a minute. But for typical, for illustrators, I think uh, first off, don't stop illustrating.
Yeah.
Carry on drawing, carry on doodling, carry on practicing, because I think that you can teach, or anyone can hold a pencil
Yeah.
or a crayon or whatever
Yeah.
your, medium of choice is. Anyone can kind of draw and that kind of thing, but I think it is I honestly believe there's a genetic element to it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can teach a person how to use a pencil properly and
Yeah.
how to produce something properly.
Some people
But
have it and they don't.
unless you've got, and this isn't trying to put people off who want
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
an artist, by the way, but
Yeah.
I think that unless you've got some kind of something internally, some sort of genetic spark
Yeah.
that will add a bit more of imagination to the art,
Yeah.
and I think it's just luck of the draw whether you've got that or not. I believe,
Yeah.
which sounds negative, but it isn't really meant to be.
No,
Um,
no, it's true. I mean, for example, like everyone says, their biggest fear is public speaking. For me,
yeah,
when I go in front of people, something just clicks. Like I could be super worried, but it's just like it's genetic. It just clicks in me, and boom, I'm off to the races. So I get,
yeah.
yeah. Mm.
I mean, I haven't spoken to in front of Congress like I know you have, Danny, but I've told you that I live in a very small village, as I
Yeah,
said, in the west coast of the Scottish Highlands,
yeah,
and there's about 700 people that live in this village,
yeah,
and we regularly have bingo nights in the
yeah,
village hall.
yeah,
Where I wear,
yeah.
as I've mentioned to Danny, I wear a sequin jacket
I
and a
love it.
toupee,
Yeah,
not take myself seriously. And I'd speak in front of people there, but
yeah,
I might be a bit nervous at first. Nothing to the extent that you experienced,
yeah,
Danny, of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
but I know a little bit of what you mean.
That's
And then
funny.
when
Yeah.
you're up there and you've got a microphone and they're all hanging
Oh
on
yeah.
your every word.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the ultimate power. I mean, you're up there, they're clinging on to every word. But it's funny because I kind of are you like this? I disappear in my art. Like even speaking or with writing, like everything else just fades away, and I'm just locked in my own head, just kind of,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
thinking, yeah,
Yeah,
I like that.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. But to carry on the advice,
yeah,
keep on drawing, keep on practicing, work hard. I would really recommend if you want to do illustration as a career, um, getting a portfolio together of your best pieces and then sending them to an agent.
yeah,
Now, an agent will do all the legwork for you as regards trying to get you jobs illustrating books.
yeah,
Now, back in the day, what would happen is, I'm still today, I'm sure that happens. Illustrators will have their portfolios and they will go around publishing houses trying to sell their wares and to
yeah,
show commissioning art editors that they're worth, taking on.
yeah,
If you have an agent, they'll do that for you. Because can you imagine how difficult it would be for me
yeah.
to go around publishing houses in New York, getting a flight from
Sure.
Glasgow, going 2.5, 3 hours
Oh
down to
yeah.
Glasgow, getting a flight to New York, going and then going back home. And imagine having to do that a couple of times a year.
Oh yeah. That'd be
That would be a
exhausting.
pain in the neck.
Exhausting and financially draining.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what an agent does is they will do that for you and they'll represent you to the best of their ability. But they will also take a percentage of your income.
Of course. Yeah.
That could be 15%, 20%, a quarter of your income. I think it's worth it
Yeah.
personally.
Oh yeah. No.
So
Yeah.
work hard, carry on doing your art, get an agent, don't give up.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Don't give
Yep.
up.
The power of
Because
fight,
some
baby.
days,
Yeah.
well, I remember some days that I'd draw pictures when I was at art college. And then because artists are generally, and writers, their own worst critics.
Yeah.
I'll paint something, finish it, look at it, hate it, scrunch it up.
Yeah.
When that happens, don't let it get you down. Don't
Yeah.
give up. Just push
Oh,
ahead, carry on regardless.
oh, yeah, no, keep plowing through. I remember looking at my old stuff I used to write and looking at now, I'm like, oh God, what was I thinking? And it's just you just gotta keep pushing through. One thing you said that I like to piggyback on is, I hear everyone say, work smart, not hard. Work smart. No, I don't agree with that. I think you work smart and you work hard. That's how
Yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely work
yeah,
hard. I'm quite
yeah,
conscious. When I say quite, I'm very conscientious when it
yeah,
comes to
yeah,
doing my artwork. I hit deadlines that I'm given. I generally work about, I mean, at the minute, I've been working 7 days a week because I'm trying to hit deadlines,
yeah,
much to the annoyance of my family. I will sometimes, there have been days when I've worked very infrequently, but
yeah,
15 hours, 20-hour plus days in the past. Not so much now,
yeah.
but I'm quite conscientious as well. And you've got to be that. You
No, yeah,
can't get a job. You can't get an agent to get you a job from a large company and then you not hit a deadline or
yeah.
produce poor quality
Oh yeah,
work. You've got to be really fastidious
yeah,
and you've got to just, like I say, work hard. But it's a great job to have. It's just the
yeah.
best. I work from home. I
Yeah.
used to work in my attic. Now I've got a very small room that I
Very
just
nice. Excellent.
sit in and just beaver away.
As long as the wind doesn't blow you guys away, you're good.
Well, yeah, we had a storm here recently that blew down this 70-year-old cherry tree that we had in the garden. That was so disappointing,
Yeah.
but yeah, because it has been quite windy in
Yeah.
Scotland recently,
Oh,
bit of a storm. But also, I was going to say, Danny, about advice that I want to give writers
yeah.
as well.
If you could talk about the tools you use as well, like the software, things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll talk about that first. Predominantly, what I used to do is
Yeah.
I used to use uh, something called a pencil and paper. Really old
Gosh.
school
Wow.
Stone Age kind of stuff. What I
Yeah.
do is I draw a rough.
Yeah.
So basically, what that means is when you get a commission, you'll get a description for what the writer or the commissioning art editor from whatever company you're working for, what they want to see on the page, and then you do a rough, which is basically like a pencil sketch. I
Yeah.
tend to do quite well finished roughs
Yeah.
so that the writer or the commissioning art editor will get a better idea of what the final picture is going to look like when it's all coloured up. So I used to do the roughs with pen and paper, pencil and paper, scan them in, and then I'd colour them up using Photoshop on a PC using a Wacom tablet, which, as I explained, is basically like it's a big, it's called a Wacom Cintiq.
Okay.
It's about it's about 30 inches corner to corner,
Yeah.
pressure sensitive with my magic pen here. Um, and then what I do is using Photoshop, then I basically color everything up in Photoshop. I've recently, there's a new piece of software called Rebel.
Yeah.
I haven't really started that yet, but I know that it's really good
Okay.
for producing kind of watercolor effects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got to get my teeth into that when I get a bit of spare time. Um, Also nowadays I don't draw on with a pencil and paper
So
anymore.
no more. That's
I
gone. Yeah.
No, I do my roughs in Photoshop as well.
Yeah.
Basically, I do everything in Photoshop.
Nice.
So I kind of there's still things in Photoshop that I don't know and have never used and probably will never use,
Yeah.
but I know it pretty well. You
Excellent.
know,
I would say so.
yeah. Thank you.
Excellent.
But
Now,
for writers, yeah, if I can
oh no,
quickly
go
say for
ahead,
writers,
please.
I get quite a lot. But
That
as I
was my
say,
question.
I didn't follow my own advice
Yeah.
with Danny. But with writers, they will say, "Are you?" I've got an idea for a book. Now, a lot of writers that come to me or have come to me in the past have basically had friends or relatives that have said to them, "That's a really good story.
Yeah.
You need to get an illustrator
Yeah.
for it." And then they approach me, and then I explain to them that first off, um, if they're going to hire me, they need to pay me, kind of
Yeah.
thing, for
Yeah.
taking me on.
Yeah.
because they say, oh, I'll give you something down the line and whatever, and this and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so, well, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But also, if you've got a book idea, um, what I would do is get yourself, like I'd advise an illustrator as well,
Yeah.
get an agent.
Yeah.
And then the agent will promote your story and then send it to publishers who will be the perfect
Yeah.
publishing house to put your
Perfect
work
fit.
out there. Because otherwise, this would-be writer might pay me to draw their book.
Yeah.
And then if they go to a publishing house, the publisher, the commissioning editor at the publishing house, might love their story but hate my work.
Yeah. I
Or
want to
they
do.
may want to work with an artist who
Mm.
they've already got a relationship with.
Yeah.
So that means that poor writer will have given me something for drawing the pictures,
Yeah.
and then, you know,
Mm.
they've got 32 pages of illustrations that
Exactly.
nobody wants,
That's
and
right.
they're out of pocket and whatever.
Mhm.
But when you came to me,
Yeah.
because at first you sent me the story, and I don't
Yeah.
know whether you remember, you asked me if I could maybe edit it or
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
any
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind
Check
of
it
thing. Because I
out.
think I wrote to you,
Yeah.
because it sounds like I've got a stock reply, but I don't. I
Yeah.
replied to
Oh
everyone
no,
and
no.
kind of,
We were like pen pals. I loved it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I thought, do you know what? This is a really good story, and I like the place that it's coming from.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, yeah, we'll do this one. We'll
Yeah.
do this
I
because,
love it.
yeah, because I thought that Danny was such a great guy, and the idea, the whole concept of the story was really good,
Yeah.
and the fact that you've been, you're a perfect spokesman
Yeah.
for the experience that you've gone through,
Yeah.
which I'm sure has been absolutely hellish for you.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, we'll do this and we'll get it out there because I think it's got a good message.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
appreciate that. Well, I
so it
love
took long enough to get to the stage where we
it,
did
it
it.
did, yeah. Well, I loved
Yeah,
the advice you gave me because at first I just wrote out my story like I told my son, and you said look at it like you're a director of a movie, and
that's what I was going to say. That's
that
another
was perfect.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, another bit of advice for
Yeah.
would-be illustrators is um, 3 words,
Yeah.
4 words.
Yeah.
Think like a camera.
Yeah.
So when you're doing, I mean, there are some illustrators that will do pictures for books and they're very static.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. But I like to, when I'm drawing an image, think of what a view would be like
Oh yeah.
rather than just front on. What would it
Yeah.
look like from up there?
Yeah.
If it's an action-packed image that you're
Yeah.
doing, if people running, how
Yeah.
about putting the camera low with the kids or whoever it is running
Yeah.
overhead? So think like a camera, like a director of a film,
Yeah.
just to give your images a bit more
Yeah. No, and that
action
spoke.
and
Yeah.
interest.
That spoke my language, honestly. I mean,
Yeah,
and it was like I was like, okay, cool. And I went and it was super fun just designing it and like looking at it from different angles. And then I was able to throw ideas off you. So it was yeah, it was an awesome experience. This whole thing has been an incredible experience.
yeah, it's been great. I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and it's really handy to have. I mean, there are writers that I've worked for that haven't said anything about how they want the art direction,
Yeah.
and they have kindly, I think kindly anyway, left it to me
Yeah.
to say, they just give me the text and then they've said, you interpret that how you want, which
Yeah.
is all I think it's great to do
Yeah.
because I can hopefully come up with an image that they've never
Yeah.
envisioned in their heads.
Yeah.
So when you show them something that might be a little bit left of field to what they're
Yeah.
imagining,
Yeah.
and especially if they like it,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I mean, that's a good thing. But yeah, think like a camera. That's another bit of
I
advice I'd
love it. Yeah.
give.
You were able to get into my busy head
Yeah,
with all my
yeah.
things. So it was fun though. It was a great.
But I remember, do you remember though, Danny? Because when I gave you some advice at the
Yeah.
start, the very, very start,
Yeah.
however many years ago it was,
Yeah.
um, uh, you said, "Can I give you something for the advice?" And I refused. I said, "No, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I don't want any." But you
Yeah.
insisted,
Yeah.
so you paid me in
Yeah.
a very peculiar kind of payment
Yeah.
in a writer-illustrator relationship. Can you
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
what it was? Can you remember what it was that you gave me?
Was it like an Amazon gift card or something? I forgot
It
what it was.
was, it was, it was support for decking.
Oh,
That's what I got with it.
that's
Do you
right. That's
remember?
right. Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
decking at the back of our
The decking,
house
that's right.
needed
Well,
support.
I
Yeah.
was so appreciative. I was like, let me try to find any way I can, show my appreciation for this guy to take
Yeah.
time out for me. So
Yeah.
that
So,
is
I mean,
funny.
I don't want to make it, if there's any, any publishing houses out there,
Yeah.
I don't want to make a habit of taking decking
No,
supports
no, of course. Yeah,
as
no, no.
long-term payment
Uh,
plan. But, yeah, decking supports they were
yeah,
appreciated
no,
and are
no.
still there today. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And now what I'll tell is to other people out there who are looking at my story and be like, okay, maybe I can do this. If you do this and you're reaching out to someone, make sure you're sincere, that you really like their work. Like with Andy, it was sincere. It came from, a place of, passion and, inspiration. So when I wrote you that letter,
Hmm.
I'm sure you could feel the feeling I was putting forward, in my
Oh,
admiration.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, not just, it wasn't just the case of seeing the passion that you had,
Yeah.
reading your backstory, for
Yeah.
want of a better description, sounds a bit
Yeah.
glib, but reading what you've been through as well,
Yeah.
it was like, oh my, this,
Yeah.
what is the trials that Danny's faced and how he's come out on the other side
I
fighting,
still got a
you know.
smile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think it's amazing. I think it's
Excellent.
fantastic.
Excellent. I know we're closing in an hour now. I want to just ask you one more question, but I just want people to see, my whole thing's the power of fighting through adversity, keeping that smile, keeping your head up. And if you do that, good things will happen. Never count
Oh
yourself
yeah,
out.
don't
Keep
give in.
pushing forward.
Yeah.
Exactly. Never. And pursue your dreams and again, work smart and work hard. But I want to ask you this because you and I, we talk about comics all the time. I watched
Uh-huh.
Dread, the movie you suggested, which was awesome.
Did you watch that?
Oh, I did. I did. I was
Okay,
like,
we'll talk about that
yeah,
after
we'll talk
this.
about it after. Now, what would be, if you could say, the most perfect thing to illustrate, the most perfect job to work on, what would be like your ideal, creation that if someone's here, hey, Andy, here's this amount of money, do whatever you want to do. What would you kind of go with?
My own stories.
Your own
It's easy,
stories?
really.
Yeah,
My own
absolutely.
stories. I've written a few. Nowadays, it's relatively easy
Yeah,
for writers and illustrators to have other options when it comes to getting their books out. They haven't got to rely on publishing houses anymore.
yeah,
There are other ways that you can get your book out that's available to everybody. I have written a number of stories that I wish a publishing house would take up. If there's any out there,
yeah. There
hi.
you go. Hello.
I wish a publishing house would look at and maybe take up. Um, a couple of years ago, I wrote a book called Bigfoot and Bird. Once again, as I said, I don't know. Well, I do know exactly where it comes from. I love Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Everything about the mythology of Bigfoot, and it's because when I was little, there's that famous Patterson Gimlin film of the Bigfoot going across
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Ape
right. Yeah.
Canyon. Is it Ape Canyon? I think so. In the northwest.
Yeah, like Montana or something.
No,
Yeah.
it's Oregon. I think. Is it
Oh yeah,
Oregon?
that's
I
right.
think
That's
so.
right. Yeah. Some
Yeah, absolutely terrified me. Absolutely terrified me and burnt itself on my head, on
yeah.
my brain. This is when I was about 6 years old, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified me. And ever since, I've loved Bigfoot. I love it. Everything to do with Bigfoot. Sounds weird, but there you
No,
go.
it's well, I
So
have similar things. I get that. Yeah.
do you? You get a bit obsessed with things. There
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go.
no, absolutely. Well, especially things that like formed an imprint on you when you were younger.
Yeah,
It's like it might maybe you was thought super funny or super scary, but it like creeps its
yeah,
way
yeah,
into
yeah.
your subconscious and then comes out. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
But I wrote a story called Bigfoot and Bird, Bud, and it's a rhyming story. And I put out that myself for my own little kind of publishing firm that I set up.
yeah,
And it was basically just to see what the process is like
yeah, yeah,
in doing all the typesetting, pagination, the cover, everything to do with designing a book. Because,
yeah,
as I said, when I used to work in the video game industry, I didn't just do the graphics for the games.
yeah,
I also did, in some cases, I produced like little brochure things and magazine things and that kind of
yeah.
thing. So I had a bit of a history doing that kind of thing. But yeah, I wrote a book called Bigfoot and Bird. and I published that. Didn't sell many copies, but then again, I didn't really try to
Yeah, no, it
advertise
was
the
great. I
thing.
read it. Yeah, you sent it to me, which I loved. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
since then, I've written some other stories, and I would love to do a series of my own, that I've not just illustrated, but have written as well. That would be my ideal thing to do.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. Well, hopefully, like what we've talked about, maybe putting out another How Eddie book eventually, which would be fun. But
Hopefully, that'd be
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
That'd
goal.
be good.
Now, if you can tell people where to find your work, how they can get in contact with you, things like that, just uh, do a plug for yourself. I want you to have the floor.
Well, I am, would you believe,
Yeah.
I'm Alexa famous.
Alexa
If
famous.
you say who's this person, I'm not on Wikipedia, but I'm on Alexa. But yeah, basically, if people Google me, I'm the only Andy Elkerton out there, pretty much.
That's right.
I've got a Andy Elkerton Children's Illustrator Facebook page, which is a bit, boomerish, I suppose. I
I got
don't have a specific website for myself. My agent, Shannon Associates, I've got a page on there.
Mhm.
Um, if people want to email me, I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That's not a slight at you, Danny.
Yeah, no,
But
no, of course.
I'll
Yeah.
write, contact me and be
Yeah,
polite. I'll write back.
of
My
course.
email is andyelkerton@btinternet.com.
Excellent.
And
And I'll put
yeah,
all that in the details as well, where to find you, things like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Ex-
that'd be great.
Excellent.
If
Anything
anyone
else?
wants any advice or just to chat or just to say hello. Oh, I'm also on, but I'm not very good at posting. I'm also on X and Instagram, but I hardly ever post.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Andy. So everyone, again, How Eddie Put a Smile on the Moon. You can find it at DannyEfron.com. I will put a link to not only my work, but to all of Andy's works, way to get a hold of him in the details of this video. Andy, I just want to thank you so much for doing this with me. It's been a pleasure this whole time. We've become real good friends, and I'm really grateful to you.
Well, it's a pleasure, Danny. It's been great. It is great knowing you.
Yeah.
Same time next week, yeah?
Yep, same time next week. You got it, my
Yeah.
man.
No,
All
it's
right.
great. Been a really good project to go through, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And it's really good to work with someone that you get along with so well as well. So
Oh, absolutely. Well, hopefully we can get this to the top of the best-selling list as well.
hopefully,
That's the
and then we
goal.
can retire
Exactly. That's right.
to
So everyone
wherever.
go buy
Yeah.
How Eddie Put a Smile on the Moon, DannyEfron.com. But thank you again, Andy. I appreciate it. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Andy, do you have any final word to say?
Not at all. Just thanks and goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Again, DannyEfron.com. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. And as always, keep up the fight.